Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm the Depressed Engineer, and I just want to give a quick update on what's going on with me right now. Obviously, the world's kind of in chaos at the moment. Essentially, I just wanted to go over the fact that a lot of my videos have been pretty much bashing on DoD contracting, defense contracting, engineering specifically, but defense contracting in general, and how it's honestly just kind of a crap show. And it still is, don't get me wrong. But this whole world crisis that we're in right now, this is like the absolute, I don't know why I'm trying to avoid saying like pandemic stuff. All the other YouTube videos are worried about saying it because they're going to get demonetized. I don't even have a choice of monetization, so I don't even know why I bother trying to hide it. But in any case, so during this pandemic, it's obviously come to light that like working a defense contracting job is actually probably one of the better things to have right now, just because unemployment's going to be crazy at the moment. So I think they're even estimating about 20%. I don't know the actual numbers at the moment, but it's like 20% unemployment, and March is almost over, so they're going to be releasing the unemployment numbers for March. Probably April 1st, maybe even April 4th, sometime in April. So we'll get a better idea of that, but it's looking bad. So, we're looking at pretty much the second Great Depression, those kind of numbers. Like, I think the Great Depression had, I think it was like over 20% unemployment rate. And we're already looking at like 20, like it's probably going to end up being somewhere closer to like 30% unemployment maybe, which that's just like the regular unemployment rate. And I've learned that there's a thing called the U6, and the U6 actually has a slightly more accurate estimation of unemployment in the United States. And in the past, it's usually been like about twice as much as just the regular unemployment rate. But that's usually it. There's like a formula you can usually follow, but if the regular unemployment rate's about 20%, I mean, you're looking at 30 or 40% unemployment with U6. And if the unemployment rate's like 30, then I mean, you're looking at almost half the workforce has been laid off and fired. And, I mean, it's just like millions of people applying for unemployment benefits and everything. So, it's a lot of these jobs that are non-essential, and, the essential jobs right now are working in grocery stores, working in healthcare, things that people absolutely need at this moment. And obviously there's talks about nationalizing a lot of these companies just to save them. But we're in the United States, and nationalizing anything is instantaneously socialism, so whatever. I gotta remember, I'm not a political channel. This is all the stuff I'm seeing. But as I've said, in my opinion, like, defense contracting, it doesn't really seem really that essential. But at the same time, I realize that, even during a pandemic, war can still break out. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if they're going to start becoming, or if a lot more riots are going to become more common now, because we're seeing the cracks show in the economy, and the cracks show in how the United States actually treats their employees and their citizens. So I'm kind of worried that, people are going to be rioting against their landlords for trying to make them pay rent when they can't even get a paycheck. And we got a stimulus bill, but that's not really doing anything for, and some people aren't getting these checks for like at least 8 weeks. And you're just like, dude, they kind of need it now. So I don't know. It's a crap show, obviously, and it's not just the United States. It's a bunch of other countries, but a lot of different countries are handling it differently. But yeah, this is a good time to have a defense contracting job, because I mean, honestly, I've always complained about busy work and menial tasks, and now it's finally being shown that you can just do that work from home. Like, a lot more defense contracting jobs are starting to do remote work. And it's funny, I've worked for the company that I'm working at for 2 years. I would say about 85% of the work I've done has been menial bullshit tasks that I could have easily done from home. They're tasks that only take 2 hours to get. You've heard me say all of this in all my other videos. It's just like work that I don't need to be there for. The only time I ever really need to be at work is when I'm testing hardware, and that rarely ever happens. But yeah, 2 years of this. So then they finally encouraged everybody, hey, if you can work remotely, you should probably work remotely. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. First day I start working remotely, I get a task from our management that's like, oh, hey, we need somebody to work on this because the guy who's currently working on it is a high-risk employee, and it's a task that you're going to have to actually be in the office for, so have fun. I'm like, are you 2 years of menial tasks that I could have been doing remotely? And then they finally give me a project where I get my hands on hardware, which is kind of more of what I actually wanted to do. But they have to do it during a pandemic. And don't get me wrong, I'm a low-risk employee. Like, I live alone. I don't have anybody here with me. So if I do get sick, it's like I'm not really spreading it too much to any other person. But at the same time, it's a pandemic, man. Like, I can go pick up the virus from work and then accidentally like touch something on my way back home, and then that whoever's near that has to get sick. It's like I can still spread it. Like, this is a very contagious virus, and they're not really taking it very seriously at all. And then just recently now, somebody at work in one of the laboratories that I worked in started getting sick. And then they basically said, all right, anybody who's been in that lab for the past week, just go home now. And then it's just like pure chaos at work too, because you got one group of leadership that's like, oh yeah, anybody who was in that lab, go home, and we're gonna see the test results later. And based on those test results, you'll be, told on whether it was positive or negative. And then we had another one that was like, well, we cleaned the lab, so now that the lab's been sanitized and everything, you can go back in there and do work. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going back in the lab until you tell me that this person actually had COVID or not. Like, because I don't want to go back into the office if there's a possibility that somehow I have the virus now. And I think I said this in another video, but I was sick at the beginning of this month, so it's very possible I actually had the virus at the beginning of this month. But at the time, it was not that big of a deal. Like, there weren't that many cases reported in the United States, and, honestly, that doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of people who are getting sick just not reporting things. But there's also the possibility that, because, the flu season was really bad this year. So it's like I could have just had regular flu. I could have had valley fever. And now I have allergies. I've been sneezing and coughing still. And it's just like, there's so much shit that's been going on that's just absolutely insane. So, but again, I guess I'm digressing. But the whole point of this video is just to say, hey, this is actually a decent time to have a defense contracting job. I'm still not going to defend defense contracting. I still think it's probably one of my least favorite things I've ever done. In fact, I think at this point, I'm starting to learn more and more that it might not just be defense contracting for me that pisses me off. I think I just don't like office jobs. Because to be completely honest with you, like, this whole working remote thing's been great for me. It's like, I hate being in the office. Like, I hate having to interact with really dumb people that don't understand how to do their own tasks. And I just like give me tasks and then I'll focus on them. And I can focus on these tasks better at home. Because then I don't have people barging into my cubicle asking me questions, and people calling my fucking work phone being like, oh, hey, what's and having to go to meetings and shit. We still have teleconferences, obviously, for remote work, but it's just like, when I'm at home, all I have to do is put on some music and just do the work. And for the most part, I've kind of tried doing that in the office too, but I just don't like being, and then you gotta go bring your own lunch to work. And it's just like, I could just go into the kitchen right now and go make a sandwich. It's not that complicated. Actually, I can't make a sandwich right now because I don't have bread. But I haven't really been eating bread in the past year and a half, so whatever. I've been on and off doing keto stuff, but that's besides the point. This is the one good thing, because I do have a steady income. This is where you have to give defense credit, because the United States prioritized, defense. I mean, our military budget is the highest it's ever been, and it's more than like the top 10 countries in the world combined. And most of those countries are our allies. So it's just like, the money's coming in, man. Like, I mean, look at what the United States government's doing now. They're just, you just see a bunch of memes online that are just like, money printer go brrr, brrr, brrr. That's exactly what this is, man. Like, Boeing's just getting it. And again, there are other videos that summarize it way better than I can. We've basically gone past capitalism, which I'm not an anti-capitalist. Like, capitalism is where we've gotten so far, but this is beyond capitalism. This is almost even beyond unregulated capitalism. Like, that's the kind of capitalism I'm against, is unregulated. But we've gone past all that. We're going into corporatism now. We've gone into socialism for corporations. And this is exactly what they did in 2008, where they just bailed out a bunch of the banks and all these huge ass companies. And these companies have already gotten huge tax breaks. And now they're just, again, money printing machine go brrr, brrr. It's just like, but then when the citizens are like, hey, I kind of need food and I can't afford rent, and they're like, oh man, sorry, dude, the ice cream machine at our Federal Reserve is broken. We can't print more money for you. So it's again, I'm not a political channel, but this shit's just like, it's a little crazy. Again, I'm fortunate to have the job that I'm at. Don't get me wrong. Even though I hate the job that I have, it's happening again. Where, I went to college in 2009. This was right after the big giant recession, and basically finding a job, even in 2013, 2014, finding a job was just the most painful thing ever. I mean, you can even argue before this whole pandemic thing happened, it's still painful. But this is where people start going, well, at least you have a job. At least you have a job. You should be proud that, or you should be thankful that you even have a job. And it's just like, look, man, I get it. I'm glad that I can work for somebody and get a paycheck. But that doesn't prevent me from having criticism about the job I'm working. Like, just because you're thankful for a job doesn't mean you can't criticize it. Like, it's like living in the United States. You can be a patriotic citizen and still criticize the United States. In fact, I would argue that criticism is the most patriotic thing you can do. But it's amazing how many people, when you go, oh man, it's kind of fucked up the United States is doing this because Canada's doing this, and the UK is doing that, and when you try to compare our country to other countries, and people are like, well, this is America, we do things different, we're independent, we do these things. It's like, dude, it's okay to take good ideas from other countries. Like, it's not, come on, man. I'm thankful for the stuff that this country's given me, but at some point, you really got to point out the flaws and figure out, listen, like, this is messed up. The way we're doing things is messed up. I want to see change in this. Don't even get me started on the whole election cycle stuff, too, because that's the exact place where you want to see change happen, and then every 4 years, it's the same exact crap happening over and over again. And it's just like, corporatism in America has just gotten worse and worse. On that note, I also wanted to point out that, so when the stock market crashes, everybody freaks out. This is actually a great time to invest in the stock market, simply because stocks essentially are on sale. I mean, if you look back at 2008, a lot of the people who were continuing to invest in the stock market will eventually, I mean, trust me, with the way that our government works, the stock market will recover. I mean, it might take 2 years, it might take 4 years. I think the 2008 crash, it took I'm trying to remember how long that actually, I think it took about 5 years for it to completely recover. I mean, if you're young, obviously, you probably shouldn't be worrying about stocks too much and selling everything. If you're playing the long-term game. If you're playing the short-term game, then you know, whatever. This is obviously a terrible time. Or you can do puts and calls and, you know, predict that the stock market's going to go down, whatever. For me, I'm doing like a dividend reinvestment portfolio where I'm focusing on blue chip dividend paying stocks that have been consistent in paying dividends, because they've actually shown that dividends have outperformed the S&P 500 and stuff. I mean, and there's an argument to make. Obviously, you don't have to just invest in dividend stocks. You can just invest in whatever stocks you want because they're like essentially 40% off or whatever. So then when the stocks recover again in, you know, 5 years or however long it takes for the stock market to... I mean, the biggest concern, obviously, is that everybody's quarantined, so... I don't know, it's a very sketchy scenario, and we're not entirely sure how far the Dow or the stock market in general is going to go down, just because there's not much you can do if planes are still grounded and, you know, all these service companies are down, and it's just like you can't really do much. At the same time, if you try to reboot the economy, just, oh yeah, go back to work. You know, millions are going to die, and a bunch of people are going to get sick, and it's going to, I don't know. It's still a bad situation. I mean, the United States is still in the middle of all this, so it's, I mean, we're doing not great, to be totally honest. I mean, it's still going to be at least a few more months for all this to finally start dying down, even a little bit. And I mean, they're talking about the vaccine's probably not even going to come out till next year. And it's very possible that this virus is just going to come back like influenza does. Like, it's very possible that it's going to, you know, maybe die down a little bit in the summer. And then when fall comes around, it's just going to hit even harder than it did now. I don't know. That's exactly what the flu does. You know, it sucks when flu season comes, and then when the weather gets warmer, it's not so bad, and then flu season comes again. And there's like 3 strains, main common strains of the flu. And it's basically up to the healthcare professionals to be like, well, I guess we're going to choose this vaccine and hope it works out. I mean, fortunately with this, it's just one strain as far as we know. I mean, it's very possible this thing's going to mutate and then we're going to have multiple strains of it, which is scary as hell, man. So I don't know. I don't know how long this whole stock market thing is going to go, but I'm actually curious to see if the housing market's going to crash, because obviously in 2008 the housing market crashed, and then the people who bought houses for really cheap ended up having houses like quadruple or more in value. So the people who have houses now that bought them in 2008 are like sitting pretty. Some of them are even millionaires because they basically became landlords, just making bank on rent and shit. But obviously during a pandemic, this whole, you know, collecting rent and mortgage payments thing, I mean, there's got to be like some sort of freeze, man. Especially on like electricity and water and stuff. And you people, like 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're expecting them to just like, oh yeah, just pay it, whatever. It's like, bro, I'm gonna go through all my funds in like 1 month. Like, I don't have the money for rent. I don't have the money for mortgage payments. I don't have the money. At some point, people aren't going to be able to afford utilities and shit. Florida, of all places. I live in Arizona, too. These are 2, you know, retirement homes states. It's like, you guys are talking about just letting the virus spread. This is like the epicenter of old people. This is mind-boggling stuff, man. So, I don't know. Again, this is a good time to have a defense contracting job. In fact, I don't know why, I don't know how accurate it is, but I'm still even getting recruitment emails in my email, in my inbox, saying, oh, hey, Raytheon's still hiring, or Honeywell is hiring. I'm like, are you? Because I would think a lot of companies would be on a hiring freeze right now, but I mean, feel free to look more into this, but I think defense contracting jobs are still hiring people. I mean, obviously remote jobs are thriving right now. So if you're a software developer and you want a remote job, this is like a great time to try to find one of those jobs. But yeah, if you can find remote work, that's more power to you. A lot of my Etsy store orders have kind of come to a freeze. I just recently got 2 orders for some 3D printing stuff, but yeah, a lot of Etsy, even Etsy self-employed entrepreneurs. I know how to English, I swear. But a lot of people who are, you know, self-employed on Etsy are seeing losses in profit because, I mean, we're basically in a global recession now. Like, a lot of people are, you know, keeping their money. You know, obviously that makes sense because they need to afford shit. And so a lot of people aren't really, you know, spending their what little discretionary income they have on little trinkets and shit on Etsy. So they're even talking about trying to get Etsy store entrepreneurs, essentially small businesses, to get loans and stuff, which is ridiculous. It's like, just send the small businesses a check too. Don't even bother. Why with the low interest loans? It's like, really? Just, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Like I said, this is the one time where you actually want a defense contracting job because, I mean, honestly, I even went up to my manager at one point and said, listen, man, would it honestly just be easier for you to just fire me and then I'll just collect unemployment or whatever severance pay I get for it? And he just looked at me like, whoa, are you asking me to fire you? And I'm like, I mean, if it's easier for you guys, then sure. I mean, I kind of said it in a joking way when I asked about it. And he said, no, we're not going to fire you. I was just like, oh, okay. Which I find hilarious because I honestly think I probably should have been fired like a year and a half ago. But apparently I'm doing something right at work because they like what I'm doing. Even though I feel like, you know, there's been a bunch of days where I'm just like, man, there's no point in me being here. And I just left at like 2 o'clock. And I was like, whatever. It's like, dude, if it's 2 o'clock and you guys aren't giving me enough work to do, then why am I even here? It's like, all right, whatever. Honestly, actually, what's funny with this remote work now is they're prioritizing task management so much because they have to, because obviously this is unprecedented. Like, we've never had this many employees trying to work remotely. So now they're trying to try to micromanage it as much as they can, just to make sure employees are staying productive. And so that they're actually like, oh, hey, if you need more tasks to do, here's a bunch of more tasks to work on. I'm like, okay, cool. So they just give me a bunch of schematics to work on. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll do that. So it's actually kind of working in my favor because now they're like, oh yeah, we got to make sure you have plenty of work to do, man. Here you go. So, and then depending on what the test results are on Monday, I might end up having to go back in the office anyways because if they test negative, then they're probably just gonna be like, hey, go back in and do the hardware stuff you gotta do. It's just like, well, come on, man, we're in a pandemic. You really want me to go in there and spread more germs and bacteria and shit? But, you know, whatever. It's the way it is, I guess. If they really want me to go in there, I guess I'll do it. Again, I'm more of a low risk person, but you know, obviously this is one of the times that everybody's advising stay home. You know, flatten the curve. I'm not going to be able to flatten the curve if I have to go into work. It's not even really an essential job, in my opinion. Like, I could be working from home easily. So I don't know. It's chaos. And the funny thing is, if they do test positive, they're probably going to close the building down anyway. So that's going to delay a bunch of stuff for everybody. But, you know, what are you going to do? I think most of our technicians came and work remotely, so I have no idea what's going to happen with them. Like, I don't know. It's going to be pretty chaotic. I guess we'll find out this coming week. So it's funny because if you have a steady income still and you're not super affected by this pandemic, now is actually a decent time to invest in stuff when stuff's, you know, plummeting because it's cheaper. The stock market will recover. That's just a guarantee at this point. Just like in 2008, and then it finally recovered again, and people who had invested made a bunch of money. You know, if you have discretionary money, it might not be a bad time to invest in stuff. If you don't do that. Then, you know, obviously if you're in a struggle right now, then try to focus on trying to save as much money as you can in like an online savings account or whatever. And, you know, again, man, it's almost one of those moments where I just have to wish you luck, because it's just like, we're all in this boat together. Some of us are in better positions than others, but this is the one time where community matters the most, and we all need to help each other and work together to just help each other in general. I feel like there's been such a huge divide, maybe I guess in the United States, but I mean in the world too. Like, a lot of people just don't feel like there's a good sense of community ever. And this is like the one time where humans need to work together to get through all this. And obviously the politicians and everything that's going on in Washington's not helping. I mean, it's helping a little bit, but, you know, there's still all the bickering, and Congress can't agree on a goddamn thing. It's just like, you know, the only thing we're going to be able to agree on is that the citizens just need to help each other out. We're all, I mean, if we want to look at it from the United States point of view, we're all Americans, man. Like, we have to go out and help fellow Americans and help our citizens. If our government's not going to do it, then we have to step up and do it ourselves. So, I don't know. And that could apply to any country too, depending on where you live. So, again, just community is going to have to help each other out. And I don't know. We'll see how this all goes. We're obviously, in the United States at least, we're still in the beginning of all this. It's going to be bad before it gets better. It's going to get worse before it gets better, from what I can tell. But I appreciate you guys watching this video. Thanks for making it to the end of it. Obviously, stay healthy and stay safe. Keep that social distancing if you can. If you guys are working essential jobs out there, thank you so much for what you're doing. I know the hospital systems are going to be overrun like crazy right now, and if you're working in the medical field, like, Godspeed and good luck, because this shit's going to get real bad out there. If you're working at a grocery store, I know it fucking sucks there too, but you got to do what you got to do. And again, that's another job where, hey, you know, you're getting a paycheck and you're at least helping people, because people obviously need fucking food. And obviously all the panic buying is obnoxious, but it's gotten a little bit better at least, but still not great. Other bit of advice I can give you is if you're running out of toilet paper, you're gonna have to start using your shower head, because your shower head's gonna be your makeshift bidet. Anyways, guys, on that note, I hope to see you guys in the next video. See you later. Bye.